Hello and welcome to an Energy Connects discussion where we bring you the latest insights and updates from the world of energy. I'm delighted to have sitting next to me Nobuo Tanaka, Executive Director-Emeritus of the International Energy Agency or IEA and the CEO of Tanaka Global. Tanaka-san, it's a pleasure to have you with us.
Most welcome. Thank you very much for inviting me.
Thank you. And to start off, could you give us an overview of what would it take for Asia to implement the energy transition at pace?
Well, because currently we are under the global energy crisis. The war in Ukraine created a huge shock in Europe about the shortage of gas supply by pipeline. So on the other hand, LNG prices went up so high because of the need in Europe for the alternative sources of gas. So Asian economy needs cleaner fuel for economic growth, and gas or LNG certainly will play a very, very important role. So the market of LNG impacts energy supply of Asia, but we need to go to the more cleaner source. So LNG certainly will play a transition role, and all the investment in the renewable energies, batteries, or electric vehicle, all these things are moving. But at the same time, because of this war, some of the interest in the financial sector is that maybe we need a longer term for the transition may require, because of this energy security is getting a much more serious issue than before. So the discussion here is obvious. Energy security and sustainability and affordability. This trilemma is certainly very acute in the growing economy like Asia. So how can each individual Asian economies trying to transition away from fossil fuel to the more sustainable sources? But also the issue is how ASEAN country as a group can achieve this. So discussion today will cover the regional power grid connectivity. This is another very interesting subject because Europe is creating the power grid connectivity for energy security, but this serves very well to the sustainability at the same time, because using more renewables, you need a larger market, because solar and wind is a very volatile source of energy. So the larger market will certainly filling the gap and providing more use or more affordable use of the renewables. So how can this European model, of course, there is a challenge of overcoming the difference of interest of individual countries, and how can Asia learn from these experiences of Europe of affordability and security and sustainability in this Asian or ASEAN energy market? And we are very, very interesting time.
Absolutely. And going back to your earlier point about the trilemma, according to a recent survey by Bain and Company, a majority of global energy executives are expecting the world to achieve net zero by 2060 rather than 2050. What are your thoughts?
Well, the longer term is easier to accept because certainly energy transition or energy transformation needs longer term. The Václav Smil, he is a professor at Manitoba University of Canada, say that it takes the longer and longer time for the energy transition. First, by coal to replace wood, and then by oil to replace coal, and then natural gas to replace other sources. This transition takes longer and longer, and transformation speed is getting slower and slower. So now what we are try to see happen is that renewables must increase much faster speed than any of these traditional fossil fuels. Can we really achieve this? And hopefully the nuclear may play a complementary role, but actual performance of nuclear is not really so nice. And Václav Smil is saying that nuclear is successful failure because huge investments in terms of money, in terms of human resources are put into the development of the nuclear power. But unfortunately, the nuclear industry cannot deliver as expected at the beginning. So we will see, but maybe it is easier to say, maybe if our target is 2060, it could be easier to achieve, but can globe or can the planet wait for that time? So of course, 10 years may help for the better transformation as well as preparing for the adaptation. But do we have time? And so my argument is that yes, it is understandable, and we have to be pragmatic. But at the same time, we have to be aware that the risk is there, and we cannot be complacent as such, and we have to do our best to innovate and to put our investment into the necessary areas possible.
I think that's a very critical point that you have raised, Tanaka-san, that delicate balance between technology, the supply side, as well as lowering emissions. So according to you, like, what more needs to be done while we are getting there?
Well, this is a long list of the action required, but I think at this moment, most important thing is that governments must work and prepare the environment or the kind of framework for the market to work better toward that direction. The regulation, and another one is the carbon pricing. Japanese government was really reluctant to move into the carbon pricing until last year. But finally, they decided to go to the carbon neutral by 2050. Carbon pricing is necessary. So they started carbon emission trading system and telling us that carbon surcharge to the utilities or importers are coming. So they realize that carbon pricing is necessary. And and at the same time, if Japan try to be a leader of the hydrogen economy, we have to provide enough demand of hydrogen, clean hydrogen, to the suppliers. So to make this happen, certain benefits for the users must be provided, because Japan started liquefied natural gas 50 years ago. The TEPCO and the Tokyo Gas decided to import liquefied natural gas from Alaska 50 years ago. And at that time, the cost is so high. Nobody believed that liquefied natural gas can really be an alternative to the pipeline gas. But after 50 years, it happened, and now it is a commodity. And Europe is certainly being benefited by the commoditized LNG, while the pipeline gas from Russia stopped. So the success was possible because it is called the regulated market at that time. Japanese government gave enough profit in the regulated market to the Tokyo Gas or Tokyo Electric, and all the necessary cost just passed over to the consumers. And without this kind of mechanism of filling the gap, price gap, I don't think hydrogen demand will not come. So the government of Japan is starting the new law of providing the price gap from LNG to the hydrogen, and try to guarantee that the hydrogen business may work. So I hope this kind of government, role of providing the rules and carbon pricing, and also standards globally acceptable to the common standards for the green hydrogen is necessary. So first thing first, yes, this is demand driven, but at the same time, the government must prepare for this kind of change and facilitate the transformation.
Absolutely. And that's work in progress, and hopefully it will pick up momentum.
I'm just fingers crossed. I hope this kind of transformation of the government in Japan works and show that Japan is back as a leader of hydrogen economy.
Absolutely. One of the issues that we often hear about technology and the journey to energy transition is that a lot of the technology that will finally take us there is not here yet. But according to you, what will take us through this decade, at least in terms of technology?
Well, if you talk about decade, probably all the technologies which could be commercialized in a decade is already here. It is the hydrogen technology, transportation and storage, and also batteries and small modular reactors, maybe. They are all here. So how can we deploy these technologies? I think governments are very happy to provide a research and development money for the new technologies and innovation. But now what government should do is provide enough money for deployment. This is different, right? And deployment support needs much, much more than the R&D. So this is the challenge for the government. And if we think about farther ahead in the future, what I'm focusing on is direct air capture, getting that carbon dioxide in air to be fixed and separated and stored underground or somewhat utilized. So by doing so, if the cost of direct air capture is getting low enough, we don't have to be bothered by the very difficult technologies to decarbonize in a very heavy using sectors like steel or cement, etc. Another one is nuclear fusion. This is a revolutionary technology which if there are many commercial fusion, small commercial fusion ventures starting in the US, in Europe, in Japan. I hope one of them will be successful. I don't know, I'm sorry, I don't know which one, but if one of them succeeds in coming decades, this is revolution. So we don't need any small modular reactor if that one happens. And the paradigm of power generation will be very different. So, but still it is science. And I hope this fusion technology may come a reality, but just fingers crossed also in this area.
Absolutely, and looking forward to both fusion and DAC being potential game changers in the future. Tanaka-san, it's a pleasure to have you in the studio with us, and thank you so much for your superb analysis and thoughts.
Thank you very much. I'm very much delighted to be with you today.
Thank you. Thanks for watching, and a quick reminder to follow us on LinkedIn and our other social media platforms. I will be back with more video interviews at Energy Connects. Until then, goodbye.